The whole idea of water as a service, energy as a service is awesome.
Yeah.
If you get the right funding on this, you can actually go in and service a very large industrial site, save them a lot of money. I've been doing this since 1998. Fail,
right.
launch.
Well, I like the part about failing early and failing often, which is kind of my philosophy too. In part, it makes the best of a lot of learning experiences.
Well,
I meant to.
Yeah, but also if you don't make some of those mistakes, you don't learn, and as long as you don't die in the mistake, every once in a while you go, this is it. This is it, Martha, I'm coming.
This is not Call of Duty. You don't get to reset. No, that's the issue.
It's like Gran Turismo, the movie, right? He goes, now, when you die, when you
Right.
crash in this one, it's a real crash. It's like, wow, that was, it's so cool because you get these kids like, oh, I can do this. Yeah, but you don't count all the times you start over. But, I failed and starting my company this time in 1999. I failed 3 times. I mean, it was like up and crash and burn. And the 4th time, and then you're like, okay, it looks really good. It's getting better. Just please send the check. Just please send us the check this time. Because the failures were starting for a company that goes, we changed our mind. And they're a $1 billion company, so what are you going to do?
Right.
You're a 2-man startup. You can assume? No. So you walk away and you get another one, and then you get another, and then you finally get a guy who goes, I love what you guys doing. Okay, great. Brought him 150,000 customers.
So really the game is not getting the customers, it's getting
It's getting paid.
getting the sponsor, the provider.
Yeah, once you have that, who's a stable company, and then the problem is, and what other businesses like mine have found out, if you make promises, you have to deliver.
Yeah, it's a funny thing about that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So we've delivered 5 million Resi customers in the last 25 years and hundreds of thousands of small business customers. And now we focus mainly on that medium to large business market. So it's kind of like not really one-off shops, a lot of chains. We have one Fortune 100. We have a bunch of Fortune 500 companies. We have a lot of chains across the country. The problem is deregulation, kind of got derailed by Enron.
Yeah, that was nasty.
As we were taking off in a huge curve, Enron messes with California. And California said, okay, we're gonna re-regulate.
Right.
Enron goes bankrupt, and 27 states pull their deregulation laws off the books, and never to put them back on. So there's about 15 deregulated states. We operate in about 8 primary states that have really good deregulation laws, and we've saved customers hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's been a good run. So we're down now to 25 years later. We're dealing with very smart people. My sales guys have to be very well educated. It's not a wham bam thank you ma'am type of sale. It's really a very specific, energetic, and not just like really handling the customer's considerations. And because we do 3, 4, 5 year contracts, so we're doing contracts for energy. And once our client buys the futures for that strip of energy, you can't back out. So the cancellation fees can be $40,000, $50,000.
Wow. That's the big concern we have. We're building this water as a service project, and the biggest issue is in order for it to work, you've got to get the client to sign off on a 10 to 15 year contract.
Right.
Fine, if he bails, but the idea is that they'll stick around because you're putting in a $500,000, $1 million piece of equipment on site.
And can you take it out?
Yes,
Okay,
you
good.
can.
And do you have to lease the piece of land that it's sitting on so they can't stop you from taking it out?
Part of it is that you retain repossession rights.
Okay, good.
That's part of the deal. So just to back up a little bit, there's been a decentralization trend for several years now.
Yes.
As you know from energy, it's happening much more quietly in water. The reason is that the utilities are overwhelmed.
Yeah.
They can't handle the business. They're underfunded. They're trying to raise water rates, but then that means people stop paying bills. That doesn't work very well. Water and sewage rates are rising faster than inflation of college tuition or health care.
Yeah.
It's that bad.
Our house, I think we've quadrupled. It used to be a bill that you didn't even think about.
Right, I know.
Right? Water and sewer, come on. No, now we're going, wow. And my wife says, you need to go make more money.
Well, but think about it. Your water bill is not that much higher than a poor person's. You're using about the same amount of water, right? So think about the poor person. For them, the percentage of their pay is ridiculous.
Oh, I know.
So what's going on with that? Well, basically, the utilities are trying to fund themselves because nobody's funding them. They are running negative about one Ukraine war per year, $100 billion. In the United States, it's a $100 billion unmet requirement for water treatment and water infrastructure. They're not getting the funding. The big $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill allocated 1/2000th of it to water.
Really?
$55 billion.
And you think about all those wastewater treatment plants. I mean, they're huge. You drive past, every once in a while you get lucky enough to drive past one, but they're massive.
The mistake that was made is that back in the 50s, when everything was being centralized, earlier than that even, they were like, oh, let's send all the dirty water to one place.
Yeah.
But the problem is you overwhelm that one place. It's just like mainframes. I'm old enough, you're very young, but I'm old enough to remember waiting in line for mainframe time.
Dude, I went to the Naval Academy in 1979. The building that held the computer, first of all, had one door, no one could go in it.
Nice.
And we had little cracks that we would slide those little, punch cards through. And you'd wait to find out if you failed or not. So that's 1979. So
All right.
I know I look younger than I really am.
Well, you have the experience of a very old man, and that's a good thing, I think, as long as you got to get the experience without going into apathy, basically. That's the key.
But can you imagine being on a submarine where you have computers that are controlling the reactor? So if there's a problem, it shuts the reactor down automatically. Well, each of those little carbon rods that shuts the reactor down had not one computer, but two. Each computer was 6 foot tall, 3 feet deep, 2 feet wide, and had transistor tubes in it.
Nice.
And it had like 14 motherboards. And there was 2 for each rod, just in case one failed.
I love it.
So and we had cold air flowing down in the engine room on top of these because it had to be in the engine room. And we literally, I look at it today and I go, my iPhone can run a nuclear submarine.
Oh, several trillion instructions per second, yeah.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy. So, but the thing, even with energy right now, the reason I asked about leasing the property, because when you bring in a 1 gigawatt natural gas generator and you put it on the property of the company, they're bringing them in on like semi-truck trailers, parking it, they build a structure around it, hook up to the system, provide all the power, and if they don't pay, and it's energy as a service, slightly less than the utility, but a fixed price based on natural gas, saves them a lot of money. But if they decide not to pay, or worse, they go out of business, they have to have the right to go in and take those trailer trucks out, because you could have 2 or 3 trailer trucks with 3 gigawatts of power. For big companies, it's really the best solution, because now you're not dependent on Duke going down. I mean, we were without power for a whole week a couple of years ago, and so we're right now we're getting solar roof, we're getting natural gas generator and a battery backup, but that'll probably be, because I know so many different vendors, we'll probably just own it ourselves, just because it makes my building more valuable, and I don't have to worry about someone to come to take it away, just if you don't make a monthly payment. But
well, this is really important to know. I mean, we're designing this program, and these are the early days for water as a service. Now, we have competitors, for example, 7 Seas, which is funded by Morgan Stanley Capital Partners. They do islands.
To do several different customers, off-takers?
No, they'll be the private utility for an island.
Oh, an island out in, yeah.
So
that's where they're testing all this, by the way. In Bahamas, they're paying 75 cents a kilowatt hour. 50 to 75
oh, yeah.
cents.
Hawaii is also high.
Yeah, because they're islands.
Yeah.
Where's the natural gas pipeline? I mean, I don't care what everybody says.
Don't they have like wave action energy or something?
Yeah, they do. I don't know how many people are using that. I mean, it's a great idea because it's energy. The whole idea of water as a service, energy as a service is awesome. Yeah. Because you can go in and you make it, and with the right funding, and this is a great investment, by the way. If you get the right funding on this, you can actually go in and service a very large industrial site, save them a lot of money off of what they're paying to be on the city's wastewater treatment system, correct?
Exactly. So how it happened is very interesting, because we didn't start with water as a service. It was kind of an outgrowth of what we were doing. Back in 2015, 2016, I was sort of the early prophet of decentralized water. And everybody's like, huh, what? What? What do you mean? And nobody cared. But, in fact, recently, a water trade, Water Online, which is the biggest one, published an article on decentralized water is great. And I pointed them to the same article that I wrote 7 years ago in the same trade about decentralized water. And guys, I wrote that same thing. But, such a thing as being too early.
Yeah.
But the good news is you get good, right? Being too early is good because if you can survive it, we have very good investors and we take good care of them. As a result, you can be there in the space kind of almost idling.
Right.
And then when it takes off, you're there.
But the important point is idling, but learning. The lessons that you learn at the beginning,
It's a microcosm, really.
Yes.
Exactly. So what we're doing in the early days was we weren't trying to do the water as a service. We were just doing decentralized. So, for example, you've got a trailer park. Trailer parks are a huge audience for us because, most trailer parks, how they take care of their waste, it goes into a pond. And that's it.
Oh, my God.
There's a green pond in the back. Green algae. Yeah, baby. Anyway, now the regulators are saying, no, you can't have that. And so this is one of the biggest risks that trailer park operators face, which is the wastewater treatment. One client that we put in one of our pods in place for, she had to give up half the equity in her trailer park to pay for that.
Wow.
That's how bad it was. Either that or
be closed down.
100%. They were literally, she was going to be shut down. And so she would have been a great candidate had we come up with that at the time.
Without giving up equity.
Because she just pays as a service. No big, I don't need that. I don't need equity in their trailer park. I'm good. I'm fine. I'll stay in the water business. Thank you very much. Although you're starting to give me an idea here. You were talking about owning your own building. Like, interesting. But the idea here is this. First of all, without talking about water as a service, is industry and agriculture represents 90% of all water usage. And the water utility is overwhelmed. So why not take industry and agriculture off the grid?
Right.
Let them do their own thing. Because it makes sense. Back in the day, the early part of the 20th century, centralize everything. The idea is you would then concentrate expertise and resources. The problem with that is growth. You outgrow the centralized system and you end up with an overload, which is what we got today in water.
Yeah.
So the solution is decentralize. Good news is now the expertise exists at the edges. The downscaled systems exist. So these pods, these water systems in a box, we call them. So
It's a great idea, by the way.
I didn't come up with it. What happened was we were trying to acquire companies. This is back in 2015, 2016. We came across a company called Eptech that this guru, Dan Early, was basically the co-owner of. And we were going to buy his company. Well, come 2018, it wasn't happening. He comes to us, he goes, well, my company shut down. You want to hire me? I'm like,
So you didn't have to buy him.
No, it was perfect. So he comes on board. Now, water sales move about as fast as real estate sales, meaning very slowly, right? Like it took forever. So we started him in 2018. We deficit funded him all the way till 2021. We turned profitable, right? So right through the pandemic, and finally 2021 was profitable, and then he started doubling year over year. Boom, 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 right? He's just like that, crazy. Because Dan was smart enough to think about a standardized product, right? You want the containerized product, there's only 3 sizes, 5,000, 10,000, or 15,000 gallons per day. Which do you want? Oh, you want 30? Well, you'll get 2 15s.
That's right. That's right.
Right? That's how it works.
Same with energy.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
And so he's dramatically standardized it. He's basically turning into just flapjacks, just boom, 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 right? And we have another division that does large customized systems like power plants and so forth. That's their specialty. Unfortunately, it's not as scalable. In our forecasts, modular water, Dan Early's company, is going to way outgrow progressive water,
Right.
because of the dynamics of it.
But isn't that the basis of every single successful company, that when you can supply a demand, and then if you can do it at a profit, so you can continue, because people, well, why don't you just do it for free? Well, then, because no one can afford to give it to you. But if you can do it, if you can scale it at a profit and it's scalable up, because, you know, like every company starts off like this, they're on the bottom wondering if they're going to live. And then they hit this peak where they just go up.
Yeah.
And at that point, it just becomes management's greatest thing is how do I keep it going until you hit that peak growth where you're just kind of flattened out a little bit. But if you don't have it scalable, and every single one has to be custom engineered.
Forget about it.
Right, it's time.
It's over.
Yeah.
And the other thing that happens is you have very long sales cycle, like about a 2-year sales cycle. Well, that eats up staff time, it eats up margin big time. So you shorten that as well. Here's where we went with it. First of all, we had built the custom company, great. We actually bought it and it does great. But again, it only has limited upside, but it's a great engineering center for us.
Right.
Number 2 was modular water, which is growing fast, great. Then along came the pandemic. And this week in 2020, literally, the first week of February was when the effect from Wuhan being closed for a month started showing up in the price of crude,
Right.
which crashed. And Ken Berenger and I were the co-creators of this. We looked at each other and went, oh my gosh, nobody's going to have any capital. We didn't realize it was going to be a giant giveaway of trillions of dollars. That hadn't happened yet. So it's, whoa, it's going to be a huge capital problem, hard money, all that stuff. Because normally that's what would happen. They were just contraction, right?
Yes.
So we said, well, why don't we, and out of that came the idea of customers not paying for their machine and just staying on the meter. They're on the meter already. They don't own that central utility. Now they're going to get a unit on their site.
It diverts, right?
It diverts, yeah.
From the meter, away from the meter.
Well, it's our meter now.
Yeah, okay.
It's no longer the city meter, it's our company meter. And so doing that as a service, and that was an amazing concept, which matured into what we call today water on demand.
Right.
It operates just like a master limited partnership for oil and gas, meaning that it's a bucket of, a bundle of properties, pump stations and water treatment sites and you name it. It gets funded by investors and they get a royalty. You see, master limited partnerships have a huge tax advantage, which we don't have. Energy got this giant tax credit, right? We don't have that. So what do we do instead? We give giant equity rewards in my public company and also in Water on Demand itself. But then it turned into a big deal because we got that company on the road to the NASDAQ.
Right.
Now, what's great about that is that we combined Progressive Water, the engineering company, Modular Water, the pod company, and this new concept, Water on Demand, which doesn't have a single deal, but it has capital.
Right.
We merged them, and that's what we made the target. My mother company, OriginClear, we held back. Why? It's the incubator.
Oh, right, right.
It's the parent. So now Water on Demand is our child, sending our child off to college. That we're paying big bills because it's Harvard, okay? So we're paying the big bills. And we are currently the majority owner of Water on Demand. And even after the merger, we'll be probably the largest single owner, depending what happens. But the good news is now those units have real capital to work with.
Right.
So we don't know how much it's going to be. It is what it is. But I don't care. Why? It's the NASDAQ, stupid. You can if you make it on the NASDAQ, you can raise money no matter what.